Well, I might jump around on my questions here a little bit because
Let's just do that.
You triggered a question.
Okay.
And it is about the energy costs here in Kentucky. Now, I'm from Michigan, so I'm a transplant, kind of coming ahead of the automotive moving down to this region. But I noticed when I came here, just as a consumer, my energy costs were considerably less. And that has to have an impact on the manufacturers. But there's also some movements going on that I'm sure your advocacy group is paying attention to that may impact that negatively here for Kentucky. What do you see?
Yeah, it's there's a lot going on the federal level in that regard, as well as in a state like Kentucky. A little over 90% of our energy needs are produced by coal-fired electric power plants. The resource is close to us here. That's just been something that has developed there. And so as we progress forward in what we look at a green economy, we want to make sure that we do continue to work on renewables and all those kind of things, needs, and making sure that we're protecting our natural resources, our air, and all that type of thing. But it needs to be done in a realistic way, so to speak. The current bill that got out of the House of Representatives on the federal level, it's traditionally called cap and trade, the Waxman-Markey bill, would have moved Kentucky, if it would have passed the Senate in its current form, would have moved Kentucky up the second highest rate of increase in electric rates in the nation. Only one state would have had a higher type of increase, and that would have been the state of Texas. There are various numbers and formulas that you can look at out there, but most realistic estimates over a period of time, ours would have gone up at a minimum of 30% and could have even been higher. Whether that bill has a chance or not, I don't know, but there's a renewed emphasis going on the federal level on that issue alone. I think Senator John Kerry and Senator Lieberman are introducing a bill, or there's discussions going on that. There are resolutions being discussed up there. We filled out some paperwork just yesterday that goes out this morning to try to facilitate some information on what the needs are as far as Kentucky is concerned, and we will continue to move in that direction. But cap and trade, to me, on the front end, looks like nothing but a tax.
Yeah.
And there are winners and losers in that part of the thing. Do we need to make sure that whatever's going up in the air or into our water or into our ground is safe and secure? Yes. And when I was back as a cabinet secretary in natural resource environmental protection, I used to tell our staffing, there's never thing 100% certain. But if we're going to err, let's err on the side of the environment and our resources. I think that's a realistic approach. And I think that's CAM's approach to these E's. At this present time, the present Waxman-Markey bill, CAM's opposed to across the board. Does that mean we're not willing to interact and deal with those issues? No, we understand those needs. But it's got to be taken into context on a domestic level, how we compete with our surrounding states, but even more importantly on an international level. I don't know the exact figures, but I believe the country of China over the last year or year and a half has built well over 100 new coal-fired power plants. And I suspect, and I'm using that word fairly loosely, but with an educated part, with less clean coal technology than we currently operate, not only in Kentucky but within the continental United States. So there's a process that we need to go through and make sure that we remain competitive.
Yep. Okay. Well, those things and a lot of other legislative activities that are going on could impact the business and industry coming to Kentucky, and also the business and industry that's here. In my research, I found that manufacturing is still the leading sector contributing to Kentucky's gross domestic product. And do you see that position strengthening in the near future?
It's astounding, as I've traveled Kentucky since late last year in various groups and meetings and whatever. I usually started off by asking the question, what is the greatest contributor to our gross state product? And I compliment you on doing your research. It is manufacturing. Mm-hmm. It contributes about $28 billion annually. It's about 19% of our GDP. The next largest percentage of our GDP is government. It's at about 16%.
Yeah.
And when you start adding up the dollars and cents in that, I mean, those two forces drive the largest segment of our economy. So it's important that we continue to protect what we have. CAM advocates not only the protection of that, but what do we do to grow that? There are a couple of areas. We've just discussed maintaining our energy supplies. We're very big on protecting our tax base and continue to that. We had an issue in this last session of the General Assembly. Net operating loss. That was a carryover. If you've had a bad year before and you had a little bit better year this last year, you can take off some of those losses. Well, some of that, there were people who wanted to suspend that. CAM fought that issue. We did not think that was in the best interest of our membership to take operating capital out of our economy. Mm-hmm. Other issues that we work very hard on to protect have to do with health care, maintaining a system here in Kentucky that is conducive to not needing more than we're already needing to continue to provide those kinds of services, whether insurance, care, and those types of things. So we advocate very, very hard for that. Workforce development, and I know that's something that's very near and dear to your heart. We've been working on an issue involved with that, along with tax incentives for existing businesses over the last 3 or 4 years. That's been the two big positive components of what CAM has been advocating for. We were successful a little over a year and a half ago to finally get the tax incentive part through. That means that we've got programs now in conjunction with, we work with the present administration to get this developed, that you not necessarily have to be bringing on a certain number of new jobs to participate in some of our programs. It could be to protect the jobs that we have.